Welcome to the Sip and Scale podcast, where we talk about everything business, entrepreneurship, and startups. My name is Blendi Muriqi. I'm the CEO and founder of Delegate.co. Each week, you'll join us as we talk with industry experts and business owners, sharing actionable insights to drive your business forward. So grab your favorite beverage and let's sip our way to success. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Sip and Scale podcast. Today we're joined by Cristina Vascil, Director of Partnerships at Turno and a true connector in the short-term rental space. She has a strong background in marketing, sales, and she helps businesses grow by supporting teams and driving partnership. Outside of the office, she's a vacation rental fan, and what I love about her is she's really into video games. I love bringing people onto the podcast that they have a professional background in a certain niche, but they also have a passion outside of the office. So looking forward to the conversation. Cristina, welcome to the Sip and Scale podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. This is going to be a fun chat about two things I love.
Awesome. Okay, let's start off with I always ask people that are in the short-term rental space how they started out. There's always like a story of meeting someone that changed your perspective or got you into the industry. What was your story? Like, how did you get into this space? Because based on what I know, like you've moved around a lot of different companies within the space, so you've seen a lot. How did you start though?
Yeah. So when I graduated college, I kind of went through a major life change that happened.
Yeah.
And I quit my job. I sold everything. I did a 6-month trip all over the US and different islands as well. And one of my last trips that I did with a friend group was to Puerto Rico. And I remember my girlfriend texting me. She's like, "We're going to stay in a vacation rental." I'm like, "What is a vacation rental?" And she's like, "It's Airbnb, look it up, like it's really cool." And I'm like, "Are we gonna get killed here? Like, what is this?" And so it ended up being the most memorable trip I've ever taken. It was a local host who was very hands-on. Like, he would take us everywhere. He also owned like a little coffee shop that was next to the vacation rental. So he helped us basically plan every single day. If we weren't able to get a taxi, he went out of his way and like took us to those places. It was just like a very healing week-long trip. And I was actually the only one who spoke Spanish out of our friend group. So I would talk to him on all of our road trips to the different destinations. And I learned a lot about the industry and how it works. And so when I got back to the States, I just started looking for jobs in the industry. Yeah. And I ended up at Kigo before they were acquired by Guesty. So that's actually how I started, because of that amazing host.
That's cool. Yeah. I know a lot of folks from Kigo, and it's funny, like they were at Kigo and then they transitioned to other companies within the space, or they transitioned to Guesty. Given that, like, so obviously graduated from college, you have different directions you can go. You decided to go into the marketing space, right? That segment of marketing, sales. Was that just like a natural progression for you? Did you have a background in school in that? Is that something you wanted to pursue and you just picked the niche? Why marketing?
So it's funny. I actually went to school. Originally, I wanted to be an architect, but somehow I ended up in business school with a marketing degree. I always loved the creativity and going into why people buy things. And somehow when I graduated and kind of taking that trip, I ended up in sales first. And so my goal was always, okay, build up here and eventually land into a marketing role and kind of build that way. And while I was in sales, normally sales departments have marketing departments that support them. And sometimes it's a little bit smaller, so you're not getting all the tools that you're wanting. So within my own sales career at Kigo, I actually started developing collateral that would assist me in my deals. And then eventually my team was noticing my success, so I started developing things for them as well. So I always knew eventually I was going to end up in a marketing role, but it really started off with like sales and what you would call sales enablement tools, really, that I eventually ended up taking into my next role, which was at Track in a sales role as well, developing things there that really helped grow. And then ultimately leaving that company and developing my own role that I pitched to the next place I ended up going to.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like you stayed in the same industry, and I see this as a trend as well because obviously you understand, you speak the lingo, so it's a lot easier to market it. Once you've been in this industry for a while, you can go from like a software property management company to a staffing solution company to a SaaS company that handles cleaning. So you've touched a lot of different points within the industry. And now you've landed in this very important role, which is doing partnerships, right? How do you see partnerships being different than other kind of marketing roles within a company? And why is it so pivotal for a company's success?
Yeah. I think partnerships is both sales and marketing. So it's two things that I love, but also like sales, obviously, like you have a monthly quota. And it's not that you don't still have quotas and revenue goals in a partnership aspect, but it's that churn and burn in a sales role versus now in a partnership role. You can be a little bit more strategic and, okay, what are companies that align with our ICP and our goals for this year and even into next year? How can we work together to solve a common customer problem that is happening within those organizations? And then you're working multiple deals essentially to support both your company and their company, which is exciting. And then you're also adding the element of marketing, which is you can't just establish a partnership and go to the next one. You have to have a quarterly, yearly plan with that partner in terms of co-marketing activities so that the initial excitement of a partnership, you have adoption, but then it starts to die down, right? You have to keep building and like adding pieces to it. So I think partnerships is super exciting. And I never really knew that's what I wanted to do until I like really sat down and talked to a couple of like mentors and also just analyzed like what I liked. But it's exciting to have like both those pieces that I liked into one role now.
Yeah. I also think that not that it's easier, but the amount of leverage that you have out of like a B2B partnership,
Hmm.
it's you get a lot more leverage out of that type of input or work that you put in than sometimes like the just B2C route where you're just trying to get
Absolutely.
customers. Because like, I mean, I see it with partnerships that we have with people in the space where it's mutually beneficial because we are constantly like referring X company, and
Hmm.
we're like, this company's great, we love working with them, they're clients of ours, and they're also, you know, referral partners, and they do the same thing. So it's like this mutually beneficial exchange, everybody wins, and depending on the size of the company, there's a massive lever of growth if that partnership is strong and solid.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what's also really interesting about partnerships is you have some partnerships that there's growth, right? It made sense. It's working out great. But then you have other strategic partnerships that are made that just blow it through the roof that you're like, wow, this is like next level. And so to have like a good mix of that within your organization is game changing.
Yeah. There's obviously, you were talking about like partnerships that kind of fizzle out if you're not investing in them. Like in your experience, the really great partnerships, what makes them great other than like keeping the ball rolling, keeping the relationship alive? Is it the people there that you work with? Is it like how well the company is organized? Because I'm sure you try and partner with different types of companies, and not all of them are made equal. So like, what's the recipe for success in a great partnership?
For me, I look at like the passion, right? What is it about this partnership that is going to help your user base? Like, do you believe in the product that we're offering? And do you believe, like, I can pitch that, right? Inner salesperson, I can pitch that our product is going to solve a problem. But that mutual partner needs to come back and also believe and see the vision that I'm pitching so that we can both come together and be like, yes, this is going to solve so many problems for our users. And then let's take it a next step. What could we develop together that could support or even make something new that the industry hasn't seen? And I think those are the partnerships that are just so different from kind of some standard ones that might be out there, but also the ones that get me excited.
Yeah. So you're now at Turno, and just conceptually looking at like your position and the partnerships aspect of it, it's such a good opportunity to like you have such a great opportunity to build partnerships with other companies because Turno touches everything. It touches the property management softwares, it touches the property management companies. Like there's so many touch points there where you can build relationships with people. And I imagine it just makes the sales process that much easier and the scalability of the company that much easier.
No, you're completely right. When I was consulting in the PMS side, I mean, that's primarily what I did in the industry. I've probably consulted with 1,000 property management companies globally. And it doesn't matter what size. I've worked with companies from one property to several hundred. They all had staffing problems. And so this is great for you as well, because you get that. But I remember that we would always have conversations of how hard it was for them to find reliable cleaners. And so when I came to Turno, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with companies who need exactly what we're offering here. And the fact that they're vetted already, they have background checks, like you're doing the heavy lifting for that company. And so that's what I think is just even more interesting, like touching so many aspects of the industry, is like seeing how things piece together, like how all these vendors connect with one another.
Yeah. I always tell people like we often have clients that come in that they're new investors, short-term rental operators, and I always break down like before I talk about staffing and building up your company with virtual assistants, overseas talent. The first question I ask them is like, tell me about your ground operation. Because literally, I always say one of the most important parts of scaling a short-term rental company is being able to have vetted, reliable cleaning staff.
Yep.
If you don't have that, you could have the best location, you could have the best amenities for your property, but that cleaner, if they are not on top of their game, if they're not reliable, you are out of business.
Yep. It all comes down to the guest experience. I mean, I've stayed at luxury properties where we had a cleaning incident, and I remember messaging the host, and I feel so bad because, like, I get it, I'm in the industry. And so, like, to message them, I'm like, oh, my heart, I'm sorry, but this property is really gross. And they're like, yeah, our cleaner didn't show up. Like, we'll send someone as soon as we can. And so now being here at Turno, I'm like, there are things you can do as an organization, like plan B, plan C, plan D. And that is maybe you have your own in-house team, but you have a backup cleaner for emergencies. Or maybe it's having multiple backup cleaners. There's things you can do to kind of prevent those experiences that can really be detrimental to your business.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to staffing up your company, I'd love to know how like your perspective changed, because like staffing, it's very much a completely different animal then working at a property management software company, working at Track, working at Kigo. Like, what was that like, making that transition and then dealing with a completely different aspect of staffing?
That was a really interesting transition. I didn't realize how needed virtual staffing was. When I was at Track, I remember working with different customers, and a lot of the conversations were also one property manager is doing the role of three other people, right? They were wearing multiple hats.
Yeah.
And sometimes deals would actually stall between the two organizations I was at, Kigo and Track, just because they didn't have enough manpower. And so it was super interesting because then it was like, wait a minute. I've spoken to so many companies that needed the extra set of hands. Why not use virtual assistants, right? Like, we are already doing a lot of our things remote. You don't need an accounting person, or you don't need someone who is doing guest communications all day, answering the phone with complaints and stuff. Like, you don't need someone in office for that.
Yeah.
That can be completely virtual after hours. There's so many markets that it's expensive to find employees, and then after hours especially, which is when the majority of customers need you, outsourcing that, like, that's huge. So again, like, staffing was another piece that I'm like, oh my gosh, everything like connects. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and then but the cool thing is, from the partnership perspective, having worked at these PMS companies, that that's a problem that is actually stopping progress from onboarding. I see this all the time with, like, we have customers, for example, that they're transitioning, they're different PMSs, and they would not be able to transition from one PMS to the other without us, in the background. When you're transitioning from, I don't know, let's just throw out like Guesty to Hostaway, Kigo to Guesty, whatever it is, there's a lot of work in the background that needs to be done. There's a lot of manual data entry that needs to be done, compiling information, sending it over, making sure your calendars are properly synced.
Yep.
And to your point, like, if you're doing 3 other jobs at the same time, it's stopping the property management software company from, closing on the deal and getting them onboarded.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that partnership opportunity is super strong.
Yeah. It's not even with just PMS companies. I mean, think about peak season. You're already short staffed. A lot of these companies are already short staffed. And so pretty much everyone in the industry, we all see a decline in our sales numbers, or we typically put a smaller quota for our sales teams in the peak season, which is typically summer. And so I think that is a great opportunity also to leverage a staffing solution to maybe see if you can change the typical low Q3 performance.
Yeah. I also think moving away from strictly the short-term rental space and just thinking business big picture, there are so many different tasks and responsibilities that people have on a daily basis. And as you're growing, there's certain constraints that you have as a business: customer service, accounting, bookkeeping, and every business can use, a dedicated remote staff that's affordable, it's low cost, and it provides you more leverage than hiring locally.
Yep.
So, I mean, to give an example, like, I see a lot of PMSs nowadays, like, they have a whole team overseas that just handles customer service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, also, like, having overseas teams just helps you really be able to provide your customer base with that 24/7 true customer support, which people need. I mean, there's so many companies, property management companies, that are working late into the night, and we're in the vendor space. A lot of us, once 5 o'clock comes, that's it.
Yeah,
So we have to still be available for them. Like the whole point and the true heart of the industry is helping the property management company.
definitely.
And so I think like overseas teams are just crucial.
Yeah. What does your day-to-day look like, and what are your goals right now within Turno when it comes to partnerships, when it comes to marketing Turno? Because it's a rather large company as it is. So
Mhm.
when I find it fascinating when you get to a certain size, like what are the top priorities that you guys have, and what are you excited about today?
Yeah. I think for me, taking a step back and making sure like our partnerships were coming together and saying like what is the problem, because when you are in a partnerships role it's easy to just think about like what is going to benefit my company and drop and push the needle, right?
Yeah.
And so for me it's really like every day is, who am I meeting with, why am I meeting with them, is this just going to benefit me, is this just going to benefit them, is it going to benefit us together? um, that is like how I approach my day to day. And I'm super excited because I just hired our first partnership marketing manager. And
Nice.
so she is so awesome. And she's going to watch this. So just know I can't do any of this without you. She is helping me execute on all of the marketing ideas that I have and also bringing her own because she's from outside the industry. And so that's a really cool perspective. And so actually like putting in place like true marketing plans that are quarter long projects, um, that is something that I'm excited to see how it plays out this year, develop on it, make it grow even more, try things that maybe the industry hasn't seen.
Uh,
So those are kind of like my immediate goals for being here.
I think what's really cool is there aren't that many companies out there in the space that do what Turno does. Like, there's a handful of them. And if you look at it big picture, the role that you have impacts, thousands and thousands of people, if not more.
Yeah.
That must be like very cool being in the position that you're in, and like at the end of the day saying to yourself like, yeah, like I I have impact on so many people in this space, and directly and also indirectly.
Yeah. I think that is the most rewarding thing about this job. I don't think I've always loved being in the industry. I've always like loved the places that I've worked. But I think I feel what you're saying right now more than ever. And I can't tell you like how happy I am, because I finally feel like I'm giving back to a level that I didn't think was possible. And I always just go back to that host who helped me right after college and introduced me to this space, because
Yeah.
I'm always in the back of my mind like, how can we like take the industry to the next level, like how can I give back when so many people poured into me?
Yeah, well, I also think that it's going back to the foundation of what this industry is, and a major
Hmm.
part of that is the relationship the guest has with the property that they're in.
Yeah.
So, like, that's going back full circle to what we were talking about. That's the first touch point. And if you can make an impact to someone that has that first touch point, like you are changing people's experiences and their lives. Um,
Yeah.
so that's awesome.
I don't think we talk about it enough because you always hear kind of like the needs of the host, like pain points they might be experiencing. And I think sometimes hosts need the reminder that like what they're doing is life changing for all the guests that they touch, right? It could be an anniversary trip, it could be a baby moon, it could be a family reunion because someone's sick. Um, and I don't think like we all kind of don't see the big picture that what we're doing in our roles is helping those experiences be unreal and super memorable and help the host get that 5-star review.
Yeah.
Um, but I always like to think about like what we're doing in the space, how is that impacting a guest who might be having a trip of a lifetime?
Yeah. Well, on top of that, it's also what are you guys doing to impact the lives of the vendors and the housekeepers that are taking care of those properties? Like, you're enabling a whole population of people to be employed. So, that's
Creating
another
jobs.
thing. You literally are creating jobs.
Yeah. That's something that I actually really love about Turno, that it's both, taking care of your hosts, but also taking care of the cleaners. Like, we are creating jobs for these cleaners. We're creating opportunity. We're putting revenue and we're putting money back into the economy. Like, that is something that I think isn't always highlighted. And it's also why, like, we're joining and supporting like local advocacy groups in different states that are going through regulations. And we're saying, like, hold on, this affects our cleaners.
Yeah,
So I think like that is something else that I think is really important to highlight.
I'm sure you can name like many situations and stories where people start off in this space and then they develop their entrepreneurial muscle and have they've translated just a side gig to their own business. And so it has this long-term effect where you have people that they start off just doing gig cleanings and then all of a sudden they have a cleaning company of their own. And that's super exciting too, because you're not just empowering people at the individual level, you're now empowering people to actually start their own businesses doing this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's also a rewarding thing to see here, is this once turned into the side hustle and now it's your full-time thing that you were able to quit your 9 to 5 and now you're your own boss, which
Yeah.
is, I think that's still the American dream, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I come from, my family has Albanian background origin, and one of the main jobs a lot of Albanians would have when they first immigrated here is cleaning jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what supported their families, that's what put their kids through school. And yeah, it's like the entry point to the American dream.
Yeah.
So that's cool. We had a discussion. Was it last week? Were we in London last
We were
week?
in London last week.
That's crazy. We were in London last week and we were talking. I don't know how the convo came up. We were talking about gaming. And you let me know that you're an avid gamer.
Yes.
I meet different people in the industry. You're the first one that I met that has a cool hobby outside of work. Tell me a little bit about how you balance your life, because you're a very busy person, and how you balance your personal life and your professional life, and mainly tell me about how you got into gaming.
I'm going to start this with, if my boss watches this, I do not game during work hours. I promise.
It's a soft, right?
It's a soft and dart,
A
yeah.
soft. If you're watching this, she prefaced this conversation before when we were in person. She was like, she doesn't game during work. So
Do not.
you're good.
I got into gaming. I have 3 older brothers, and one of my brothers, ever since I was little, was always playing the latest game, the latest console. And so he actually ended up working for Disney and then went over to Blizzard. And so I've grown up around video games my entire life, I guess more of a tomboy.
Yeah.
And it really kicked off with playing alongside my brother and going to BlizzCon, which was really cool, and seeing Overwatch 2 get released and all that. So I have to give my brother credit for giving me my gaming passion.
Yeah.
So we're about to get really nerdy. There is something called a Bartles player types for gamification. And there are 4 gamer types. There is the achiever. That is the person who likes the gold status, who wants to rank up, who wants to be top 500 players in the video game. You have your socializer. Those are the gamers who love to play games that you can put your mic on and go talk to people, right? You have your explorer. You got your Skyrim lovers, your God of War lovers, your Indiana Jones. It's actually a really good game that came out. Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Great example of someone who likes the explorer type games. And then you have your killer. It sounds intense, but that is the person who loves zombies and just wants to destroy everybody. So with that, like, I think that actually like shows you the type of personality that you can be, or like your team can be. Like for me personally, when I did the quiz, it said I was an achiever and killer. And the achiever aspect, because I like to win, I like to see momentum, I like to be in front. And that's really because of my sales background, I'd say, right? You have Achievers Club, President's Club, you want to be top leaderboard. And killer, again, very harsh term, but that is, you want to beat everybody, right?
It coincides with the achiever.
Exactly. And so I think that is really interesting because that personality in terms of how I game and the games I prefer to play also relate to like how I operate.
That's interesting.
I'll send you the survey. You can figure out what you are.
The staffing, my staffing brain is turning on right now. And so like we always think about when we're recruiting, we always look at behavioral assessments to see where that person fits in an organization or whether they fit in an organization. So I never thought about asking someone like, hey, are you a gamer? What kind of gamer are you?
There's a whole psychology behind it. It's super interesting.
Yeah. The other thing is like there is something to be said about the competitiveness. Like if you find a competitive gamer and they're able to channel that into business, you've got yourself a killer on your hands.
I think one of the reasons I was hired at Kigo, my boss at the time was John Flanagan. He's great. He's still in the industry. He poured into me as a leader, so I have nothing but respect for him. But one of the questions in the interview, it came out about gaming. It turns out the entire team played Call of Duty. I've had one-on-ones playing Call of Duty. Like,
so cool.
And we were a great sales team, but there is something to say of like the competitive nature of video games and how that can cross over into organizations and teams.
Yeah. I wonder now I'm wondering if there's other people in the space that are avid gamers that just don't say it.
I hope so. Video games are cool now.
If anyone's watching this and you're in the short-term rental space or, you know, any sort of business in general that's watching this, we should start like a clan.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I have not played COD in a few years, so I probably need a few months to sharpen my skills, but that sounds like if you have an STR clan that you go in COD, that would be cool.
How many people are going to be confused? VR? STR? Who are these people?
Listen, they have STR book clubs. There's Tyler and Maddie from STR book club, shout out. Like they have all these organizations. You read a book and you talk about it. We can just create
do a monthly like Warzone meetup.
Oh hell yeah. That would be fun. That's cool. What games are you currently playing?
I'm playing a couple. So I'm doing a co-op right now with my husband called It Takes Two. And beautiful story, like incredible. And that is a story that I think goes over into like leadership skills, is the ability to do storytelling. But that is a fantastic game about this little girl who parents are fighting and she turns them into these like wooden figurines and they go on this huge adventure of like rekindling and like growing together as a couple to eventually go back to their daughter. It's absolutely incredible. And then I just picked up Warzone again. I had stopped for like a year. I just picked it up as of like 2 weeks ago. So we squad up. And I'm also doing Overwatch. I've been a big Overwatch fan for a couple of years now.
Overwatch has been around for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, I'm really glad we got to chat. How can people connect with you online if you're in the space and you're looking to learn more about Turno, or you're looking to get beat in Overwatch by Cristina? Like, gamer tag and LinkedIn. No, I'm just kidding. But how can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Cristina Vascil. I'm pretty active on there.
Cool.
That's going to be the best way. And then if you also just have questions about Turno, you can send me an email, christina.vascil@turno.com. I will share my gamer tag to you personally if you message me on LinkedIn or email.
There you go. So this is also, I'm doing this for Cristina without her permission, but Cristina now has a gaming channel that she is now going to be posting live streams after work on the off hours. Turno, if you're watching this, she's going to start live streaming all of her gaming because it's a passion of hers, and she would be very entertaining to watch.
Thanks.
All right, there you go. I just manifested it for you.
Oh gosh, now I got peer pressure to go buy all the equipment.
That's awesome. Cool. Thanks so much for coming on, Cristina.
Oh, thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time on the Sip and Scale podcast. Bye.
Bye.